Boston Now is broadcasting inside the Go-Goat Sports Studios. We are at the Wall Center downtown on Burrard Street. It is the official BC Lions podcast. Matt Baker alongside, as always, Nick Kowalski, best video man in the business. At least we say so. Nick, how you doing?
Doing very well. A lot of fun on Saturday.
That was, and I think I even put it out there on my Twitter account at BakesTakes84. It's a fun group to be around, and you know, you're still going to get the odd naysayer out there, right? I mean, but yeah, it's early. We acknowledge that it's early, and we're in the office on Monday. Today's Monday, we're recording this, and the coaching staff is all in there. They're getting ready for Calgary, so no one is by any means celebrating anything yet, but that doesn't mean guys like you and me, because we're fans as well. We work for the team, but yes, we're also fans. We can get excited, and Nathan Rourke outdoes himself again, 477 yards passing, breaking his own mark for a Canadian quarterback. Was a record that previously had stood for about 40 years. Jerry DiTilio, 477, a new single-game record of completion percentage in one game, 91.9. That's for 30 or more pass attempts. The story just keeps rewriting itself, Nick.
Nathan's dominant, and I think people countrywide now are starting to fully buy in and fully believe at least be aware of what he's doing here, and it's ridiculous. The number he's on pace for, I've been trying to put that out now. It's otherworldly in terms of pro football. He's on pace to break a ton of professional football passing records, which is just ridiculous at this point. Passing yards, passing touchdowns, total yards. Completion percentage too is another one that he's like astronomically above anybody in the history of pro football. Drew Brees has that record for completion percentage is 74%, and Nathan's at over 81 right now.
Yeah, it's remarkable, and yeah, you said it. You've crunched a lot of numbers. I've looked at it not quite as meticulously, but he's on pace to break a lot of these records when it comes to like touchdowns in a season. Doug Flutie, 48 passing touchdowns set in the late 90s, mid-90s, and Nathan's on pace to shatter that, right?
Yeah, he's on pace for, I believe, 56 passing, but then 68 total touchdowns, or running, 67, yeah, when you factor in the rushing. And Doug Flutie had some, if you look at Doug Flutie's CFL numbers, they're video game-like.
Yeah.
But he never had 6,000 yards and 60 touchdowns in a season. Nathan Rourke is approaching 7,000 yards and 70 touchdowns this season for his pace.
Yeah. And, you know, we have a hunch he's going to be a top performer of the week. Just a hunch, okay? It would be the fourth time in 7 games. Like, I don't remember anyone who was a player of the week 4 times in a 7-game stretch.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
And there should be a teammate of his, too. Dominic Rhymes is probably going to get that nod as well.
Yeah, looking down the list, Rhymes would be an obvious one. And trying to compare it with who did what around the league, there wasn't really many other offensive standout performances. But early in the game, I even thought maybe we'll get a sweep. Maybe it'll be Lucky Whitehead. Not so sure about that, but stranger things have happened. Yeah, he's leading the league in passing yards, passing touchdowns, and it's an incredible story.
Yeah,
we've had a front row seat to it since day one. In my case, since the night the organization drafted him, way back in 2020. Seems like longer ago, considering we lost a season, have gone through COVID, but people are excited. People are buzzed about this team, and you know that to me is very cool.
Mm-hmm. And it's not even just what he's doing with his arm. Like, he's not just sitting in the pocket and getting all this time to find an open guy, but he's using his legs too. He has 5 touchdowns on the ground now. We shout out Lucas Moore, former guest, but he did the thing where he bounces off guys and gets those extra yards with his feet, and ran one in himself too from about 10 yards out last week. And he's just a complete package right now, a quarterback, and it's why. There's so many other factors. I mean, the defense too, we have is number 1 in the league in a lot of categories too. But I mean, on offense, another thing is net yards. They're on pace for one of the all-time highest net yards on offense. It's the whole unit right now that's really doing work.
Yeah, the second best offensive output is Calgary, and it's a wide margin. One of those things you look for in the league stats package, which we got sent out today, but. I know it can get boring when you ramble on and on and on about stats, numbers, whatever, but we had to at least mention that part of it because we're seeing some very unprecedented stuff here.
It's never happened, yeah.
It's never happened. So, hey, but a lot of football left, and this is the meat grinder portion of the schedule here. It kind of started in Saskatchewan 2 weeks ago, passed that test. Didn't fall into a trap game against the Elks. I heard whispers of that going into the last week. Oh, they're going to get ahead of themselves. They're going to look past this one. Nope, not a chance. Into Calgary this Saturday. These games are always outstanding. First of 3 meetings with the Stampeders. And credit to Calgary. They've dealt with injuries. They've dealt with maybe some inconsistent play. I mean, you look at a game in Hamilton earlier in the year, they had no business winning. They shut down Nick Arbuckle, Caleb Evans, and the Ottawa Redblacks on Friday night. So this is one of those games where some of those naysayers I may have mentioned at the start there might be waiting to see how the team responds. But I'm very much looking forward to this challenge, Nick. It's always a measuring stick playing the Stampeders, and John Huffnagel and company still doing a bang-up job. I mean, you see Kadeem Carey going down, but don't miss a beat. Next man up at running back position, amass a lot of yards on the ground there. This is going to be a very fun one.
Mm-hmm. It's also a team that's without Che Oberson. I mean, they released Raheem Wilson in the secondary the other week too, so they've been making some moves in the secondary. They got Brandon Dozier back last week in Ottawa, but you got a guy like Titus Wall too. He's a first-year CFL player eligible for most outstanding rookie, and he has 2 touchdowns at Sam linebacker on the season already. So I know he's someone probably Nathan and the whole offense are game planning around because he's having a stellar season, but it's going to be a good test. You're on the road in McMahon. Little New England Patriot-esque type of home record with Dave Dickinson and Bo Levi Mitchell, so it's always a tough place to win. Granted, we brought a roster there that made up a lot of guys that are no longer here, but Calgary beat us pretty bad in preseason, so I'm sure the guys that are still around, or even Coach Campbell, are really going to want to get some, I don't know if revenge is the right word for that because it was preseason, but it's always just nice to win against a divisional opponent.
It's funny, that preseason day, I've blocked it from my memory, but I remember what happened. Ugly loss, ugly incident with Kevin Thompson getting injured, and it's good to see Kevin healthy enough to practice now. He remains on the injured list officially, but yeah, it just goes to show you how amazing this run has been. Is that preseason game feels like a lot more than whatever it was 2 months ago, maybe 2.5 months, end of May. I think it was still May. Yeah, maybe that's why it seems so long ago. But yeah, Calgary, they're going to be well coached. That they kind of, for the last number of years, were kind of that measuring stick, what Winnipeg is now. Winnipeg's winning games despite not dominating every week. Balanced, right? I mean, well coached on special teams. Mark Keelam, that's a guy who's gotten lots of recognition for what he's done, and you saw him serve as head coach in Ottawa when Dave Dickinson was in COVID protocol. So the next man up philosophy for players and coaches, and that's a tribute to what John Huffnagel has done there. And it's funny, I was texting with a buddy of mine on the weekend, and he said, "God, this is a must-win game this week." And I'm like, well, I get what you're saying, but let's hold the horses. I mean, there's going to be 3 hold our horses. Get it? No pun intended.
Yes.
Keep that quick 6 from running behind our bench as much as we can this week. But 3 meetings in whatever it is, the next 7 weeks with Calgary. We play a home-and-home with them in September, the 17th and the 24th. So it's not a must-win in August when you're 6-1. But I understand what people are saying. Like, these are the games this team has to prove it can win. Saskatchewan felt the same way and overcame some adversity and ended up getting a pretty convincing result out of their 28 unanswered points. So you have to really admire the second half play these last 3 games. Shut out Hamilton in the fourth quarter, shut out Saskatchewan in the second half, and it was just 7 points in garbage time to the Elks there in the second half. So it's going to feel like a playoff game, as close to a playoff game in August as you'll ever find. A win here and you're 4 points clear, and you have a leg up in the season series. So must win, maybe not, but if you get a win, you're really, really, really planting your territory in terms of a permanent top 2 spot in this division.
Yeah, I think you said it well. It's more of a tone setter.
Right.
First matchup versus Calgary. So, but like you said, there are more down the road. And one more point about Saturday is the defensive line. Another 5 sacks. Matthew Betts, I know there was some...
Other safety, too.
Some people were skeptical of the free agent signing, but he's proved that he's worth every penny that he's been signed for. I mean, 5 sacks. Sione Tuihema with another 2 sacks, too. There might be a clause in his contract that he can only get sacks against the Elks. I saw that joke running online, but I mean,
Tebow
yeah,
getting in the
yeah,
action
Tebow,
again. Yeah.
Debaya, yeah, like they had a great day too. They really made life tough on Taylor Cornelius, especially in the second half or second quarter onward, really.
Yeah, there was that sequence of back-to-back that led to the safety, second time in as many weeks. A safety due to a tackle in the end zone. This one was a sack in Saskatchewan. It was tackling Jamal Morrow, I believe. But yeah, I mean, we're talking a lot about Nathan and the receivers and the running back. We're going to talk offensive line today with Kelly Bates joining us here on this week's episode. Always got time in the world for Kelly. But yeah, every position group, every phase is doing their part. Heard a couple people say got to get the return game going, and that's true as well. I think there's some truth to that. Kick coverage as well. We saw it really hurt them in the only loss of the year against Winnipeg. So they know they aren't perfect. There's no perfect teams right now. Even the 9-0 Winnipeg Blue Bombers will tell you that there's still room for growth there. Mm-hmm. And boy, oh boy, we'll go around the league before we're done today. But I thought Montreal might be able to pull it off there last Thursday night. But it's still Montreal after all. So yeah, no shortage of storylines here. Offensive line, Kelly Bates in his, I guess it would be his current stint, his current role would be in his second full season, took over halfway through 2019. And before we get to him very quickly, you've talked a bit about how there's a couple guys on that position group that are probably worthy of some all-star consideration.
I've said this before, and I'm no offensive line expert, but my eyes tell me that Suk Chung is having an incredible season.
Yeah.
It seems like every other play he's pancaking a poor defensive tackle into the ground, or even I saw a couple plays on Saturday where he got out to the outside and I think he trucked a poor DB over on a couple of those screens to Lucky, but he's having a fantastic year. I think Joel Figueroa has really been a staple on the left side. I mean, Kent Perkins has only seemed to get better in his next year in the CFL here. And I mean, even a guy like Philip Norman, he's really stepped into that role where maybe he wasn't expecting to going into the season, or what he at least envisioned, and he's made the most of that opportunity, right?
Yeah, there was a play, I think it was when we were in Ottawa, where Suk was pulling, just the design of the play, he was pulling, and he just absolutely steamrolled his man, and that led to a big chunk play. So, yeah, very good to see that that's a position that's always been under scrutiny, especially here. I mean, we all know what we went through the last couple of years with Mike Riley getting banged up and knocked around. And so the key to the success, he won't take the credit for it, but it is offensive line coach Kelly Bates joining us here on First and Now in just a moment. And we have Kelly Bates right now. Needs no introduction, but we'll give one anyway. Lions offensive line coach, two-time Grey Cup champion, Vanier Cup champion in 1998, I believe, Kelly. Is that right?
Well done.
There you go. And looking to add more trophies and rings to his growing football resume. And
well,
yeah,
I'm going to cut you off because they'll be upset if I don't mention it, but 96 national champion with the Hilltops too.
That's right.
Come on, bud.
There we go. We have a couple former Hilltops on our roster now, of course, talking about Riley Pickett, Nathan Cherry, perhaps as well, I think.
Just Riley. Just Riley.
Yeah, just Riley, yeah. Former Huskies, for sure. We
Absolutely.
know that. So you must have played a big role in convincing the staff to draft those U of S guys, hey?
None whatsoever, but those young men had such great combines, and just meeting them in person and speaking with them, they did all the work and put it all in, and really their work ethic and who they are is what convinced our personnel staff to select them.
Yeah, excellent guys. Spent a bit of time with them, of course, when we went to Regina a couple weeks ago. Had some media requests and obligations, and they're handling it very well, and we're glad that we have them in Orange. Before we start talking about the current addition of the Lions offensive line and the great job you and the group have done, going back to Saturday, how special was it for you to see two teammates and friends in McCallum and Jovan going into the Wall of Fame?
Well, first and foremost, two very deserving people. I got to coach Jovan, and I mean, he's just so much natural ability and talent, and you just got to watch him grow and become an amazing player. Obviously he had Dan as his offensive line coach, and he took to that coaching like so many of us have in the past, and just very happy for him. And then Paul, I mean, I don't want to talk. I try not to give Paul too much credit because it's Paul, and it's more fun to not give him credit. But to be honest with you, as a teammate, not once in my career with him as our kicker did you ever think that he wasn't going to hit it. You know, the 2006 Grey Cup and how many? I mean, he basically kicked to win that game for us. As a coach, the 2011, the first game back in BC Place after they redid it, and the 50-plus yarder to win that. I mean, it just,
Yeah.
Paul, great on the field, great teammate, one of my favorite people off the field, and just nice to see a guy like that get recognized, especially a hometown guy. And I'm really happy for him.
Yeah, homegrown talent and a guy who basically walked on here from North Carolina Central and carved out a great career for himself. That's really what makes this league so special. You get all those backgrounds.
And you think about it, Javon never played offensive line until his first year in the CFL. So, that says a great deal about, his want and desire for success. He had to cross a continent, change positions, go to a new country, and he did it all. So kudos to him.
Now, your current group has played very well this season, better and better each week, I know is the goal. But what would you say the main reason or two for the success so far, Kelly?
I think it's the accountability in that room. That group of people, I mean, they have no limits to what they will do for each other as a group. They're very critical of what they do in preparation, how they do it. And every day they come to work with the mindset that no one person is greater than the group. And by being accountable and creating accountability for themselves, they make the group accountable. And that, to me, allows them to grow. It also allows them to, figure things out within the game and adjust at breakneck speed and allow us to move forward and move on to the next play and have success. They're a group that really understand what it's going to take to accomplish what they wish to accomplish.
And Kelly, I just got to know all these guys this season, but someone that stood out to me from the get-go was Joel Figueroa. And just he's been in the league for a long time. You can tell he's a leader in that room. And I've even seen him on the plane in Ottawa right after our game. He was sitting behind us and he was immediately breaking down the film with Phil Norman. And you can just tell that he's the leader of that group. So what has his presence meant to the younger guys like Phil and even Kenton on that line?
Well, I think what's awesome about this group is it's got a great mixture of vets and I mean, even the young guys are vets. And I think that's what really creates the accountability in that room. Honestly, I think they all hold each other accountable. I don't think there's one person that doesn't or does more. Possibly, I mean, when you've got that veteran experience, you have something that other people don't have. So when you look at a guy like Fig, he's bought and earned that experience that he has. Nobody can take that away from him. And he's the type of teammate that wants to pass that on to the next guy. And you can't say enough about that. It's, I sometimes think that gets lost in the evaluation of people and players within this game. We get so stuck on certain aspects of wanting to do things a certain way that sometimes you have to remember that these people have really paid the price with their body, with their minds to get to where they want. And they've earned that experience. And it's even better when they want to pass it on to the guys they play with.
Mm-hmm. And then back in training camp too, I know there were some expectations that David Neville would maybe take a step forward this year, but then he obviously goes down with injury, and that spot presumably becomes Phil Norman, and you have that luxury too of starting an American or a Canadian at that spot too. But I mean, how has Phil done in his first year as now as a full-time guy there?
Well, Phil was a starter when I got here in 2019, and from the get-go, I mean, Phil is an extremely coachable player. And I think it's in part because coaching is something that he wishes to aspire to do. And he's a sponge. He takes it all in. I think where Phil's improved is understanding that mistakes are going to happen and that you have to fix them and move on. Phil has faced some real I mean, just like most professional athletes, at some point in time, you face some adversity. And last year, Phil in training camp was sent home, and his future was in doubt in terms of being at least with the BC Lions. And credit to Phil, we had some injuries last year, and he came back. He came back a different person, even though it was maybe 6 or 7 weeks later. He came back rededicated, and it really showed over the entirety of the season last year. This year, he was in a battle to play somewhere on the line. Originally, he was going to battle at the center position, and the expectation was that he would come in and perform at a high level. And when we had David go down during camp, it didn't bother Phil one bit to move over and take over a different spot. It's a whole different set of skills. It's a whole different world. And he slid into that seamlessly. And to Phil's credit, further than that, he really can play anywhere along the line on either side. And again, just being the competitor that he is, he strives to be as good as he can at what he does. And we're very fortunate to have him.
And then I'm no offensive line expert by any means, but can you confirm to me that Suk Chung is having an all-star season at right guard?
I'm not going to talk about anything like that. That those things are out of everybody's control. Those are voted on by members of the media and really have no ramification or indication either way. I've seen too many people get those who don't deserve them, and too many people not get them that should. And at the end of the day, what this group is so focused on is the daily process in which we involve ourselves in to get where we need to get to. The great thing with Suk is that, again, just like everybody, but really amazing. He's so coachable. He wants and strives to be as good as he can. And in my mind, from 2019 to this point in time, he's a different football player. He's grown leaps and bounds both on the field with what he does from a technical standpoint, and more importantly, and really, the key to him having success is learning how to, play with the right level of emotion in what he does. I've always believed for an offensive lineman to be great, they've got to be cool-headed. They've got to make extremely important decisions at breakneck speed, and those decisions put you in a place to now carry out that physicality. And Suk has never had an issue with the physical side of football. I mean, he's as strong as it gets, and now he's putting himself in a position on a very consistent basis to have success, and it's starting to pay off, and I'm very happy for him.
Another guy that we've been impressed with for the last couple of years, Kent Perkins. 2021, he was just another name on the roster. Didn't know much about him, and unfortunately, Riker goes down in pretty much the first quarter of the first game, right? And KP slides in there, earns the team nomination. He's picked up where he's left off, and he even just signed a 3-year extension. Very rare these days. Your overall assessment of how he's performed, Kelly?
Well, offensive linemen in general are, we're we like to know where we're going to be in the future. We're just like everyone else. Change can be scary and things of that nature. And Kent has made a commitment to this organization and to this city and this team to be in the same place for the next 3 years. And I think we're very fortunate to have that. Again, another guy that, has been around the NFL. And when he came here as a very humble man who wanted to learn, wanted to coach, and wanted the chance to play football. And he has been all of those things. He's a professional. And when I say that, I mean, he takes responsibility for himself. He works his butt off to put himself in a position to be successful. And again, very coachable. So he's been that steady player on the line for us. You can expect the same thing game in and game out. And ultimately, that's what an offensive lineman is trying to do, is play great consistently. You're not looking for a big play here or a big play there. You're looking for that consistent level of play that allows us to carry out our offense the way we need to.
Let's go down memory lane for a few minutes. I know you always love doing this, Kelly, but who were some of maybe the older veterans when you came in who took a liking to you and helped you adjust to the pros?
See, now you just set me up for failure here. If I say somebody, I'm definitely going to get a call later saying they were wrong. You know what? I was so lucky. I was so lucky when I got drafted here. It was a very veteran-laden team. We had some great veterans. We had, you know, near and dear to my heart, Corey Mantica and Jamie Terrace, Dan Payne, Steve Harden. It was just a very, very veteran group. And I couldn't have been in a better position, both to learn what it takes to be here. And again, you talk about Fig and that experience that he passes on. Every one of those guys had earned that experience and were more than willing to share it. You know, my first full year here, you know, we're in training camp and Corey Mantica walks over to my hotel room and knocks on the door and I open it. And it's the end of training camp. And he goes, "You're coming to live with me." I knew who Corey was because he was from Saskatoon. Corey was a Hilltop alumni. He was someone we all looked up to. And then all of a sudden you're in training camp with him. And then this next step is, you know, he's showing you the type of person he is off the field. And sure enough, that year I lived with him and his family. Now, I don't know how happy his wife Christy was when he showed up with a stray animal to live with him for the season, but I'm forever grateful for it. And you know, we remain great friends to this day. So again, just great people. Jamie, you know, for the second half of that first season, Jamie Terrace and I drove to work every day. Corey actually tore his pec off in one of the games and missed the last 6-7 games. And, you know, that's when I got to really get to know the legend of Jamie and his ability to eat and then eat again and then eat again after that. So, you know, guys that I still look up to, guys that I consider friends, and I'm very fortunate to have had that experience with them.
Yeah, saw Mantica there at the Wall of Fame banquet. It was a very, 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 very good turnout. So that where would that training camp have been your first one? Chilliwack? Where?
My first one was in Chilliwack in 2001, and my second one was it was a mixture of different places in Surrey. The first one was coming off the Grey Cup win in 2000. And I got to experience that whole thing, a whole training camp. You know, the ring dinner. I sat at a table with Anna Stukas, the very first head coach of the BC Lions and a legend. You know, as a kid from the prairies who just grew up idolizing the CFL and everything about it, and, you know, not really having a clue how you got there after high school or any of that nature, but knowing all these names and then getting to meet them all, you know, and experiencing that ring dinner with all those guys, like I said, sitting at a table with Annis, watching Corey and Jamie and Sweet Lou and Sean Millington and just all these amazing people go up and get their Grey Cup rings was amazing.
Hey Kelly, we've talked about this with a couple other players now, but I mean, 2021 in the CFL was not a banner year for offense, and a lot of that maybe had to do with the COVID protocols. I mean, not having a preseason, limited training camp, but I mean, has that played a role this season into maybe the success your units had and maybe the success overall in the team?
I think that there's a whole bunch of variables, but you know, I've met very few athletes that aren't repetition people. And what that means is in order to get good at something, you need reps. And by far and large, when you don't have those reps, it's very tough to execute at a high level. And, you know, on the offensive side of the ball, execution is so key. I mean, you're asked to do things with certain techniques at certain breakneck speeds at a high level. And if all 12 people aren't executing at a high level, it's tough to have success. And, you know, the other side of the ball, you know, there's some amazing athletes over there. And when you have to deal with that without the ability to have those preseason games, those preseason reps, I mean, you think about it, our preseason was already shortened. We probably lost another 6-7 days to, you know, the issues that the entire Okanagan was dealing with in terms of the wildfires. And it probably put us in a bad spot. But, I mean, those are just excuses. There's a lot of them at the end of the day. And I think ultimately what mattered most is that we learned from that and, you know, applied that in training camp this year. And now we're trying to, I think you're seeing the growth of that. It doesn't mean that we're where we're at or where we need to be at this point in time, but we're definitely moving in the right direction.
And then looking ahead to Saturday, I think the average CFL fan may not even know who like a guy like Mike Rose or Derek Wigan are. But,
I think they do.
They're two of the top interior guys in the CFL, right? I mean, what kind of challenge are they going to present in that line overall?
They have been for a long time. Wig and Rose are two very good players. That whole defense is just outstanding. They play with such speed and such commitment to bringing the ball carry down. It's a really, really good defense, and they're led by an experienced guy who, in Brent Monson, who puts his guys in a good position to have success. So, those two guys inside in particular, the way they play the ball, the way they rush the passer. Wig's as good as it gets for taking on, two offensive linemen and reading the gaps and compressing gaps. And when Mr. Rose gets signaled on one-on-one in the pass game, he's a menace. So those are definitely two, but just two of the other, 12 that are on that side of the ball that we're going to have to deal with.
Well said. Hey, we live for these types of games, right? These are the true tests, and we're very excited for this one. It's going to feel like a playoff game in August. Kelly, thanks so much. Always appreciate you making time for us. One of our all-time faves, and we're not just saying that because we're talking to you face-to-face here, but that's the truth. And we'll see you out there this week.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Kelly.
Always great talking to Kelly Bates, one of the good guys in the Canadian Football League.
Yeah, I think it's an underrated story, too, this season of how the offensive line has played, and really they've stayed healthy and they've come together as a group, and it was good to talk to Kelly about all that.
And you know what I just realized? One big storyline we missed in the Open. There was so much going on. And Bernie, I know you're a loyal listener. Brian Burnham, congratulations. Returning from injury, for one. Nice touchdown grab there as part of that first half explosion.
Yeah.
Vintage Burnham. And now fourth all-time on the Lions list, passing Swervin Mervin Fernandez. So next on that list is Manny Arsenault. He's got about a couple thousand yards to go, though, so a couple more 1,000-yard seasons, and he'll be right behind Giroy and Jim Young. Well earned, and Burnham will play game number 100 this week in Calgary. Very, very impressive stuff. We go around the league, Lions and Stampeders, of course, Saturday, and we can kind of start at the first game and go to the last, but we've talked a lot about Lions Stampeders. So the other three games this week, another Thursday, another Blue Bombers Alouettes tilt. I talked about it. I thought Montreal might be in store for the upset there at home, but you let Janarian Grant return one to the house, and that was kind of the second half turning point. I think we can unanimously say I don't think the Bombers' undefeated streak ends here. I think they're a safe bet at home against those same Alouettes.
Yeah, I think the score might even be a little uglier with that Winnipeg at IG Field. It was 14-14, and you blinked, and it was 28-14. It ended up being 35-20, I believe.
35-20, yeah.
But Janarian Grant, I tweeted this out, but I did the Google search of how old he is because I thought to myself, how is this guy not getting an NFL opportunity? Just the speed he possesses and the vision he has on kickoffs. He burnt us in the very first play. He had 2 go back against us. One got called back, but he's kind of like their secret weapon. Just when you think you have Winnipeg beat, they like unleash him and game over. Yeah.
Talked about it when the offense isn't going 100%. They can make you pay with special teams. Certainly with defense, we've seen that firsthand here. So it's Thursday night at IG Field. Winnipeg's only played 2 home games? 2 or 3?
A couple more. Calgary, Ottawa.
3. They're 6-0 on the road and 3-0 at home. So they have a home-heavy schedule here coming up.
Just what they need, eh?
Just what they need.
Maybe a bye week or two coming up.
Yeah, I think they're going to get a bye after this week.
I don't know. I'm still doubting if they have a bye. Yeah. It just seems like they play
because they play Calgary again coming up back at IG Field. So I think they might have a bye and then home to Calgary. I know this is great podcasting. We're just kind of guessing the schedule. So that's Thursday. Friday night, we're getting Toronto-Hamilton again, are we? This time in Hamilton. Second of 4 meetings coming up here in the next month. I said this on the last episode. I'm not a fan of this 4 and 5 week thing. It kind of diminishes the Labor Day tradition, if you ask me, but what do I know? I'm not involved at the executive level in this league. But Toronto in Hamilton, And we're watching this game before we're getting ready to play the Elks. And okay, Hamilton's up early here. Then you look up a bit later. Oh, Toronto's ahead. Oh, another pick six for them. And they end up winning that game by 2 touchdowns, kind of pulling a Winnipeg Blue Bombers of their own.
Yeah, I mean, special teams and defense both scored for the Argos in the second half, and they kind of figured it out on offense too. They had a really slow start. Andrew Harris was contained pretty well again.
Yeah,
but McLeod Bethel-Thompson, I mean, Cam Phillips is kind of emerging as a dark horse, kind of like solid receiver in the CFL. He scored again for the Argos, but I mean, yeah, they came through late, and it was a good win for the Argos, and they're above 500 now.
4-3, yeah. So, been saying it for a couple of weeks now. Can that be the team that separates itself from the Eastern Division? We keep thinking Hamilton's going to get on a run here at some point. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I still think they're better than their record indicates. I had them finishing first and going back to the Grey Cup as a first-place team this time around. But, again, 3 more meetings with the Argos here, so they have a chance to get back into that race very quickly.
And then also as well, like you saw Braylon Addison go down with what looked like another serious injury, which was really
an Achilles, right?
Yeah, it looked really tough to see. I know he was in quite a bit of distress and emotionally upset after too. So all the best to him. He's one of the players I've enjoyed watching over these past couple of years, and I know it was a grind to get back to, or even on the field last season. So I'm hoping it wasn't that serious, and maybe we can see him back on the field.
Yeah, saw him there on crutches on the sidelines, just kind of looking in disbelief, indeed. So that's Friday night in the Hammer, Tim Hortons Field. Saturday, we're the first game of a doubleheader. After we're playing, it's up the road in Edmonton. Elks looking to bounce back, home to Saskatchewan. We've talked about the Rough Riders' struggles. Is this the week, Nick? Is this the week where Edmonton gets its first victory at Commonwealth Stadium since they beat us in October of 2019 with Logan Kilgore at quarterback?
I'm sorry, but no.
No? You don't have
Keep
faith?
It at that. No, I think the Riders are, I mean, they're off a bye week now. They're probably getting a little healthier. I'm interested to see if they can get Kyron Moore back into their lineup. I think people kind of forget that he's one of the best receivers in the CFL and hasn't been addressed this year due to that knee injury he suffered last year. But I mean, another week for Cody Fajardo to get maybe a little more healthy too, which I think is really important for them. I mean, we saw kind of his limited mobility against us, and I mean, yeah, the Riders, they're going to get some D linemen back soon too, it looks like, with Garrett Marino obviously, but also Pete Robertson is probably coming back in the near future. So yeah, like don't sleep on the Riders. Yeah,
and Edmonton played them tough in their last meeting. That was after they played us the first time.
Yeah,
so
it was pretty much a carbon copy of that Winnipeg game they played, no? Like, the Bombers kind of dominated in total yards.
Yeah.
Elks got some chances, yeah.
There was a couple goofy special teams plays that night, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's, so we'll be packing up, getting to the plane, and perhaps tuning into the first half of Edmonton, Saskatchewan. So yeah, we got an early game in Calgary Saturday, 5 o'clock Mountain, 4 o'clock Pacific. And by the way, we can also promote, we've talked a lot about Nathan Rourke. He joined Sakaris and Price this week. So check that out wherever you get your podcast, the Go-Goat Sports website. We appreciate you, the listener, tuning into this one. And rate and review. Be honest. Be open. We love open reviews. And we appreciate you downloading and listening on your favorite platform. Next week, we'll be back, hopefully talking about another win, but this is going to be big. Thanks to Kelly Bates for joining us. The podcast is on Twitter at First and Now. I am at Bakes Takes 84. He is at Nick Kowalski, no C, right?
Yeah, N-I-K.
N-I-K.
Yeah, and then underscore.
And Kowalski the regular way, the Polish way, right?
Yeah. I've been told it's as common in Poland as Smith is in America.
Oh, well, that's pretty common.
In terms of last names, yeah.
Smith's pretty common in Canada too, right? Yeah.
I guess so. North America, yeah.
Sure.
I went to high school with a Kowalski and lived in the same neighborhood as a Kowalski with zero relation.
That's good to know. All right.
So there's my point.
We'll address that when we play in Winnipeg on the 28th of October. Love it.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone, for listening, and be sure to subscribe again, rate and review, and we'll be back next week on First and Now.